Leading expert Archie Coats began his pigeon shooting career in the old days, when great battles were fought against Columba Columbus, but he's come to terms with how it is now, adapting his methods to small commando raids on a wary pigeon population. The sport continues to gain in popularity, but to end the day with a respectable bag, the shooter must rely on fieldcraft, reconnaissance, and sheer cunning. The quarry exists by the million and is highly accessible. However, an ability to shoot well is not enough. Archie Coats' authority and distilled wisdom are derived from a lifetime's enthusiasm for this testing sport.
People often ask me, why are you so mad on pigeon shooting? I think you can sum it up, and that is that it's a do-it-yourself game. You're responsible. You make a mess of it, it's your fault. It's not like an organized shoot where you really have nothing to do with it, except draw a number, and the fates will decide whether you get or whether you don't. Well, another thing about pigeon shooting is you're dealing with an utterly wild bird. And that, to me, is again one of the main reasons why I enjoy it. On the very few occasions when I'm able to shoot grouse, and that's why, again, the reason I enjoy it, because the grouse is a wild bird. And I would rather shoot 20 pigeons in a day, sort of by my own efforts, than I would much rather do that than shoot 40 or 50 semi-tame pheasants in the same day, which has nothing to do with me whatsoever. And also don't forget that normally speaking, the pigeon is not an easy target. You are doing well if you get half price. By that I mean 2 cartridges for 1 pigeon. And you are getting a far better class of shot, usually, than you ever will standing at a peg and having birds driven over him.
Archie Coats never pretends to make hard and fast rules about pigeon shooting, but his mastery of the subject can help the shooter put more birds in the bag, although the record numbers of years ago are no longer the norm.
Everybody in their lifetime probably has something which is a red letter day. I had one once. It was just after snow, and it was on a crop called S101 Aberystwyth. S101 Aberystwyth is a pig clover, and which is a thing which, I don't know if it's grown now or not. Anyway, the pigeons liked it very much. And on that particular day, I'd already shot the field once before the snow came. I got a few. I had a bale hide in the right place. And on this particular day, they'd been snowbound, they couldn't get at it. Snow had just cleared, and so they were mad on it. And I was even lucky enough to have 3 different, which is very unusual, 3 different lines of flight. Personally, although I had it was a wonderful day, and I would have had another 100 pigeons if I hadn't run out of cartridges twice. Had to go back and get more. So I lost a full hour, and I believe I was shooting a pigeon every 18 seconds or something. So we got 550 exactly, and I fired 650 cartridges. But he's a wonderful bird, and it's, apart from some of the falcons, are probably the finest flower we have in this country. And I personally am very fond of the pigeon. I've always have been. I think it was St. John in a book which he wrote called Wildlife in the Highlands. He wrote a passage, a short passage, about pigeons, and he said that they did much more good than harm because they were eating the farmers' enemies, the seeds, seeds, if you like, in the crops. Well, now, unfortunately, modern machinery and modern farming ways have killed all that. There are virtually no wild seed left. Things like charlock, chickweed, they're all sprayed out. So the pigeon does now more harm because he hasn't any choice. If he wants to eat, he has to eat something which belongs to the farmer. And he does. If you have one crop only, they will concentrate on that crop and do it a lot of harm. So the pigeon shooter's job is still very necessary to help farmers keep pigeons off their crop. And frankly, the best way to do that is to kill them.
It is impossible to overemphasize the importance of reconnaissance. And if you know and trust your fieldcraft, you can read the landscape like a book. Archie Coats invited fellow professional pigeon shooter John Batley down to Hampshire for a day's shooting, and they set out the previous afternoon for some reconnaissance.
I can see some movement over there, actually.
This is the first vital step in the art of decoying.
And in the far tree.
Which one's that? Oh yeah, I'm with you. Now I have a big. They seem to be drifting back across this way, don't they?
The rule is, 1 day's reconnaissance equals 1 day's shooting.
Yeah, they're drifting backwards and forwards down there all the time, aren't they?
Might well be, we'd be better farther forward. We can't get farther forward, so that's it.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of birds down there. But they're coming back on that line as well, aren't they?
They're coming back like
Down there,
that
yeah.
way as well.
Just go and cut that branch.
Having now ascertained that pigeons are operating in the area, they decide not to miss a good opportunity, and so remove the fallen bough that is blocking the farm track and move to a more advantageous site to find first the actual field where the birds are feeding, and second, to decide on the correct place to build their hive. A reliable shooter is an asset to any farmer or keeper, but he'll only be tolerated if he gets permission to go on someone else's land and causes no damage either to valuable crops or to timber. A high wind is keeping the birds on the move, and constant traffic over and into a field is a sure sign the birds will decoy, but the hide must be directly under the flight line. Flight lines tend to follow the contours of the land, and whatever the time of year, pigeons will use the same ones if possible. They're marked out by land features, gap in the hedge, or a single tree, which you can spot just as well as the pigeon. Watching and waiting can consume both time and petrol, but pigeon shooting is a game of patience, and if you do the job properly, it will yield a good return. Observe your field on the way to work or share the task with a friend, and always take the advice of the local pigeon club. These professionals live in an ideal world, and yet even they watch the fields and the flight lines for longer than it takes to shoot them.
John, you take the gun back. Right.
Right, we'll get the rest of the gear out.
They're getting... Better have a sack of pigeons, haven't we? What have we got about...
Decoys, they're rather important.
There's somewhat. We've got about 16 in there, I think. A net. Right, well, I'll put this out down here for so it doesn't get tangled up in here.
Now then.
If I dump this lot down here and put your
Just
seat
dump
in.
it all there for the moment.
Put your seat in first.
Yeah. You've got the most important part of everything.
The coach seat.
Coach's seat. These are beans. They were planted a long time ago.
How long ago?
I don't know, 3 weeks ago anyway.
Yeah.
But there were some pigeons on it yesterday.
Right.
And so it might work, and this is a good wind for it. Anyway, we'll build a hide, give and take from that bush
Round
to here,
and then round back
to
to
here.
there.
We may have to cut a bit of that off.
Yeah.
And then we'll have the decoys out there. As I say, this was beans. There were quite a lot of pigeons on it.
And there's some flying down there now, look.
Yeah, I see.
I think I saw a few coming down back on that line.
Well,
down
there's
this
a
side of
big,
the field.
can be a line there, but most of the line we're going to expect is going to come down this hedge towards us or across from back there and hopefully see the decoys
And drop in
curl
down like that. Yeah.
But the great thing to do
Wind's
is
nice.
when we get the hide out, get the decoys out, then we will see. It's no good saying this is a good place. It is probably a good place, but one can always be wrong. And I think I might as well say here and now that it's probably a mistake to make an absolute gorgeous sort of palace of your hide straight away. Make a basic hide,
Then
see if it works,
add to it later.
and then sort of make it a bit better. Right, John, take that one off. We just need to drop it down a bit. It's a little bit too high. And just... That's it. There we are. That's all right, because the net will cover all that.
Yeah, I'll take this side out.
One has to be rather careful of what you cut and don't cut, as I just said, but it is important not to cut
Yeah,
down
we
the
haven't
sort of
done much
reaches.
damage here, though. That's dead anyway.
Now then we want the stakes.
Somewhere here?
No,
Bit
back,
further
bit back, John. Back here.
Right.
2 guns in a hide is generally taboo and is definitely not for novices. Safety and courtesy are paramount, and it is vital to define your arcs of fire as if you were on a formal shoot before the action starts. Otherwise, you begin with good intentions which only dissipate when the birds drop into the decoys and excitement takes over. Our professionals are vastly experienced and felt able to take the birds as they thought fit.
Excuse me. Well, what I'll do is I'll go here, and then I'll go back again, I think.
Step the top.
Yes, I'll tuck it over the top here like this.
Is both you and I can sit down and we can look through that
Right.
and we can get our guns over the top of it.
Yeah, I could do that, all right. What I always like to do is once I've done it, I like to sort of sit my
Sit
seat
down and try it out.
try it
Yeah,
out,
very
see if
good
it
idea.
works.
But I'm pretty certain you'll find that
I'll
that
just-
will be okay.
Plonk that in there. Oh, that's great.
Right?
I can stand up and shoot. I can shoot. And
Yeah.
that one there's a little bit difficult.
No,
isn't
never
it?
mind about that. We've played off of this.
That one there.
John, we've built the hide.
Yep.
And the next thing to do, obviously, is to put the decoys out. But before we do that, I want you to walk right up the brow there and put the birds off this field.
Right.
Now, it's very important. A lot of people make a mistake here. They just get into the hide, put the decoys out, and they go bang. And therefore, they blow the whole place up.
And they don't come
in
back
one
at
fell
all.
swoop.
Yeah.
I personally very often try and get them off the field upwind.
I
of
do
me,
too, always.
But I know this ground so well that I know they won't do that. So in
So
this
we'll
case,
just walk 'em off
all
that
I
way.
want to do is to get them off the field,
Right.
and then we put the decoys out, and then we're in business.
Yeah, I'll go and walk them off.
Righto. Right, John, you've got to do it deep.
Yeah, I have indeed.
Well, we put them about 35, 40 yards out.
Yeah.
The wind's about right. So I think we start out there.
Yeah.
All right, that'll have to do. Go about my stone now. Into them out and then chuck. That's what I do. It's just an easy way of getting them in the right place without having to walk miles. Right, one or two up to your right, not many. And a little more out that way, some of them. And straight in front, that's it. Yeah. Now build up again a bit more down here, please. I'm sure you know that there's no question of worrying about feathers.
Oh, no.
Don't worry how many feathers there are, I'm not interested.
But let's face it, if we kill any, there's feathers everywhere anyway, aren't there?
We'll just put them out, see what happens, and then we can move them accordingly.
Right.
Right, we'll put these two over here.
Yeah.
That's about it. We don't want him on that.
That should do, shouldn't it? Gives them a nice stop at this end.
Right, we want to get them now look presentable.
Right.
I.e.
Head in the wind.
the picture that the pigeon expects to see
Right.
as it comes into its chosen field.
To get shot.
To get shot, I hope.
Exactly.
Right, so we've got to put them up in sticks, but that means the trend into the wind,
Yep. And a few
but
off.
not like a platoon of soldiers.
Right.
No matter how carefully you find the flight line and build your hide, if you don't get the decoy pattern the way the pigeons want to see it, you're wasting your time. Pigeons enjoy 340-degree vision, and you can pull them in from up to half a mile away if they like what they see. It's not necessary to have all the heads up on sticks. In an undisturbed flock, the greedy majority will be busy feeding, but the bands of white feathers and the wing bars are a flock recognition signal, and the sticks force the heads up, so these bands show, encouraging the birds down to where you can get at them. Don't overdo it, though, or it'll look from above like a flock about to take flight.
Now, leave these for the moment,
Yeah.
but a couple down there, the farthest out one, and the two there,
Yeah.
put facing the wrong way,
Right.
facing that way. The idea of that is that when they're coming over the heads, if we get a line from that way, I think, I don't know this, but I've always thought it was a good idea to have the broad back
Yep.
as they come. I think they see it easy. Watch it there. It comes right up the strip. We'll get it started. Up. And I'll take that one. I didn't. Well done. Oh, possibly get around there.
I'll let him come if he turns.
Coming in, going left.
Come on. Doesn't want to know, does he?
Yes, he does. Come. Well, that's happened to me the first time.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Missed that with both barrels clean. Oh, the little sons.
They may come right up the strip. They do.
They've gone over the back.
Yes, in the tree. In the tree.
Where?
You see it? All right, get her out of the way.
Oh. Got him. One coming in.
Get him?
Both of them. Yep.
You got both?
Yep.
Well done.
Well, that one I killed out there with the choke barrel was just sitting right in it, wasn't he?
Right, exactly. Well, that's what it's all about. Don't worry about taking them on the ground or on the trees. Your great idea is to shoot pigeons. on your left, John. Take the first one if they come both in and leave me the second. Well, they've pulled us, haven't they?
Yeah. Here he comes.
Wait a
It's yours.
Hang on. Okay. Quite a long way up.
Yeah, it is a long way out. I agree with that. Here comes one on my left.
We've still got some work to...
Here
Right,
comes two.
coming in, Joe. Oh, no,
No, they
Right.
just...
There's another one on your left now. Oh, no, yeah, it's too far.
Yeah, it's too far out.
I think we were through. We've got to do a little bit more altering of the decoys.
Yes, I think I agree
Because
with
at
that.
the moment they're just not being quite...
I don't really want sort of... I don't like it, do
and
they?
maybe we can do something about it, maybe we can't, but we've got to try. What I think we do is we push more
On the outside?
out, still out to our left,
Here's two.
and some of them even nearer into the...
Should we push this end of the decoy line further up to our left?
I think we will better try and do that,
Right.
because there's one dreadful one out there on its back, and of course being on its back or its wings flapping about is very bad news.
Yeah.
It's what I call high discipline. Now,
Second barrel
there's a
kill.
runner for you now.
Yeah, I'll go and get that.
You have to service the hide and keep the decoy pattern as you would expect them. Hang on.
Two of them.
All right. There's two runners through now.
I'll go and get both of them.
All right, I think we better get them. Or they'll walk on. That wasn't walking off. Go on, shoot now. Hey, well done. That's woken them up. And I think this will come. On your left, that's all yours. Come out well come. This will come up the strip.
Second one behind him.
There's another friend.
Yeah, they're both going to go.
Yeah, the other one will come. Oh,
Where
I
did he
had my
come
gun
from?
ready. I could have got that one.
Yeah.
Never mind.
They just turned off too
You
fast.
just turned off a bit too quick for
Yeah.
it.
It's not that easy through those trees, is it? Well, I don't know where the second one came from.
Well, that's one of the charms of doing this.
Oh, yes.
I never saw it coming.
I
It
didn't.
must have been virtually on the decoy.
Yeah.
God, nothing like I don't believe that. John, there seems to be a bit of a lull. Brutal things aren't flying around at the moment. So what I think we do is we'll look at this bird. It's freshly shot, and I want to see what it's been eating. Right. I'll just open its crop, and there you are. One crop.
Absolutely.
With absolutely nothing in it at all. But anyway, it's very odd because they've had every chance to eat something this morning. There are weed seeds even in some of the winter wheat fields, because they have been so wet they haven't been able to spray them.
And there's rape just over there.
Rape, I mean, you know, but it just happens time after time, and it always amazes me how they survive.
It does me.
I mean, no way can they suddenly start eating at 6:30 when it's dark, you know?
But I often find at 4:30, 5 o'clock, still they're empty.
They're still empty.
Yeah.
It is
Lots
very
of them.
remarkable.
It is.
Now, I can assure you that in the old days,
So-
the great old days, that was not the case. You never used to shoot a pigeon this hour of the afternoon with nothing in it.
No, I
There was
agree with
always something. Right, John.
Yep.
I think they seem to have come to a bit of a halt. I think we'll pack it in. We've had not a bad day. And I don't think we're going to get any more. It's late enough. Also, don't forget, never a bad idea to let birds have a chance to feed. That is, if you ever want to come back into the same area again.
Yes, they've got to be left undisturbed.
They have to be left a little bit, you know. Farming is all very well, but you have to think a little bit, I think, of the pigeons as well.
Right, I'll go and pick up, I think.
You go take the sack out and you get on to pick up. And I'll watch, Don.
Thank you very much. Very nice. Appreciate that, I do. Let's go and have a look, see.
A true hunter respects his quarry dead or alive. Archie and John Batley firmly believe the pigeon offers the greatest shooting of all, with its difficult trajectory and its lilting, rocking flight. And the finer the quarry, the more respect it deserves. Today they've been lucky, but the hunt is the thing, and on another day they could be far less fortunate. An average bag is, after all, fewer than 10 birds. Be practical with the dead quarry. Check for blowflies. Empty the crops of rape in winter and leave the dead birds breast up to cool quickly and thus taint less. And leave them overnight before freezing.
Okay, let's have a look too. Yeah, but I've got several in my hide. Yeah, I've got at least 6 in the hide.
Oh, yeah. 3, 5, 7, 10, 14, 15.
15. Right.
That's what we started with.
John, I've got, I think, 6 in the hide.
So 6 on top of whatever I
so
count
you've got
here.
6 on top of whatever you put in.
8, 9, 35 plus 6 you've got in your hide, and 1 I've still got to pick from the trees.
The open country in Hereford, where John Batley works with the local farmers to protect their crops from pigeon damage, is quite different from the landscape in Hampshire. The whole point of decoying, he believes, is to get the pigeon where you want to kill them and not where they want to be.
Basically, I've got a farm here which has grown peas for the last 5 or 6 years. We're now in sort of early spring. Peas have been in for a couple of weeks. And this is the ideal sort of place to shoot pigeons in the spring. They love peas. There's a number of advantages with it, in as much that A, they're sweet and succulent, and B, you've got the advantage that your decoys stand out on the bare earth. They stand out much, much better than they would in a crop 4, 5, 6 inches high. The other good point about the particular field we're on, it's got a lot of height. We're not down in a dip. It's well exposed. It makes it slightly more difficult to shoot because it's exposed. And I have to be very careful about hiding myself and not moving. But it does mean that the pigeons can see us from a long way off. Get on, my loss. Get on. Great. Come on, bring it in here. There's a good girl. Dead. There's a good girl. Dead. On this particular farm, I've been shooting about 5 years now. I've got a flight line from over there, another one on a good day from over there, and another one from over there somewhere or other. And I know this place. Once I can see them trickling over this way and back down towards that ash tree, I know there can be something going, but it's going to be smaller quantities than in winter. Big problem with spring shooting is that the winter flocks have broken up, and it makes reconnaissance a little bit more difficult. You don't see enormous flocks like you do in winter, so you've really got to get out and search for it. But once you have found a field like this, you could be onto a very good thing. Basically, the difference between spring and winter is thousands of acres of rape, which is suddenly reduced to, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 acres of peas in the same sort of area. and pigeons are going to look very hard to find something they like. Because the big thing about these birds is they're incredibly greedy. I mean, this is why they're always on the feed. It's a thing that works in our advantage, as a matter of fact, because they've got such a high metabolic rate. They actually need 25% of their own body weight every day in winter. As an average pigeon weighs around 20 ounces. That means they're going to eat, oh, I don't know, good 5 ounces a day, something like that. And in spring, they don't quite need to eat that much, so their patterns will change. Come on, go for it. It's much too far away. Okay, well, I think I'm going to alter that pattern now. I really don't like the look of it. The birds don't seem to be coming in. One of the things you must never be frightened of is altering the pattern. I'm going to try up slightly more curve round this way. I'm going out to change this pattern because I don't really like the way they're coming into it. The problem is I've got the wind shifting all over the place because I'm fairly exposed out here. Basically, I had a shape that should have pulled them in from left to right. It doesn't seem to be pulling them in, and they seem to be wanting to drift back in from the right again. Something very important about all this is don't ever be afraid to move the pattern. There's absolutely no point in sitting on your backside in a hide saying, well, they're not coming in. If they're not coming in, try and work out why they're not coming in. I know they're a wild bird and they're very tricky, but watch them. Try and work it out. They're always going to land head into wind, or as near as damn it head into wind. And maybe you're too tight into the corner of a field. They haven't got enough space to get in. Maybe they don't like what they see from the air. If necessary, and I'm not going to the extent of climbing a tree and look at the pattern, but walk 400 yards across the field and look back at your pattern. Does it look like a proper feeding flock? Don't hesitate to change if it's not right.
As a general rule, the decoy pattern for a hide in a hedge is governed by the wind direction. And if you're shooting in optimum conditions with the wind at your back, the decoys will be on a broad front facing into the wind, like a feeding flock with a space in the centre, a killing ground where the bird will attempt to land and where the gun will pattern best. Leave 3 to 4 yards between each individual decoy and try to make the picture look natural. The approaching bird should fly into the pattern like this. The original broad front of decoys can also be used as a stop and extended into a U-shape with the arms channeling the birds into the killing ground. With the wind in the opposite direction, dead against you, the distance between the hide and the decoys needs to be greater, with the decoys sometimes almost out of range, most of them facing away from you. The approaching pigeons flying head into the wind will drop between the hide and the pattern, and if they should overfly, there's plenty of room for them to come in again. If there's a crosswind from either the right or the left, the decoys should form a semicircle across its direction on the windward side of the hide. The birds will fly past you to reach the pattern, presenting a challenging low crossing shot. With the wind on your right quarter, place the decoys aslant the wind in an almost semicircular pattern with the nearest ones at only 10 yards from the hide. The approaching birds will cross in front of the hide and turn into the wind to fly back towards the decoy pattern. With the wind coming from behind your left shoulder, set out the decoys like this, and again at a distance of 10 to 35 yards. The approaching birds will fly head into the wind in front of you to reach the killing ground where the gun patterns best.
The first time you have a go at this, you're probably going to miss anyway. There are a number of very simple rules. Got one. Certainly made it better, isn't it? Because if you really want to learn how to shoot pigeons, what you do is you go and sit in a hide for an afternoon. You don't even take a gun with you. You set up your pattern and you watch. And after a while, you'll get to see the point where the bird is committed. He's committed to come into the decoys. There's a certain point, and you'll be able to see it very shortly, at which you put the gun onto him and shoot him. Get on, my loss. Get on. One thing you've always got to be careful about is dogs. They hate pigeons and they hate pigeon feathers. Your dog has got to know the difference of a dead decoy and a bird that you've just shot that you want in. Mainly you teach them by teaching them the difference between a hot and a cold bird. And you send them out, and if they pick up the wrong bird, you just keep on doing it time and time and time again. It took me about 6 months to get Meg really good. Hi, lost. Bring it in. Get on, hi, lost. Get on. Good girl. Bring it in. Bring it in. Bring it in here. Come on. There's a good girl. Bring it in to me. Go on, bring it in. Well, I reckon that's just about it for today. I don't think I'm going to see anything else. It's been a bad day. You can always tell on these spring days that when they pack up, they've been flying all day, and when they pack up, it's just like a tap being turned off. That's it, finished. You can go home. Which is what I think I'm going to do now.
Later in the year, John Batley prepares for an afternoon sport shooting over harvested peas. As a professional shooter, he covers thousands of miles each year in search of his quarry, and he needs to be highly mobile and flexible. And he's had plenty of opportunity to assess the products aimed at the modern pigeon shooter.
Come on, girl. Out. Good girl. Now, one of the big things about shooting today is mobility. You've really got to have light gear. For example, these nets are all very light scrim and net and aluminium poles, and they're telescopic. And then one of the other big things is seats, of course. Now, this seat's made out of an old drum, sort of a modification on Archie Coats. It's very, very light, and I shove it in a kit bag. And the reason why I shove it in a kit bag is because you can get all these decoys in and carry it off down the field just like that. It just weighs, I don't know, 2 or 3 pounds. Next you come to my great big game bag here, which I've got all sorts of things, including my food, empty bag, cartridges. That's next. Then what have we got left? Gadgets. Now, the only gadgets you'll see me using are these weird things which I invented myself, which work as a cradle for a dead bird. And I put it in the pattern, put the bird on it, and it gives some movement to the dead bird in the pattern. And likewise, bamboo canes can also be used to loft up decoys slightly above the pattern. Then the decoys themselves. Well, I usually use dead birds, but if I can't get dead birds, I've got to use plastics. If I'm using plastics, I use two sorts. These are full-bodied, work very well, especially lifted up a few feet from the crop. The other ones, which are very good indeed, are these rocking shells. They're very light, a dozen of them weigh a pound, no more. And when you shove them in the ground, the slightest breath of air will just get them on the move. And what happens is these white bands move in the wind and they attract pigeons to them. They're really excellent. Now, if you want to go one step further than that, you can do what Archie does. He gets one of these shells and he sticks feathers on it. And they're very, very realistic. These don't shine in the sun at all and they work very well. He does the same on full-bodied, and I reckon they're really great. Of course, plastics are only really any good to start off with. Once you've got some pigeons shot, you bring in your plastics and you replace them by dead birds, because dead birds are always best. But if you've got none, start with these. Now, there are occasions when one of these crows work very well. You put them about 50 yards out from the pigeon, and it seems to give pigeons confidence to come in near the crows. Apart from that, these are beautiful. Just look at these. These must be, what, 60, 70 years old now. Solid wood, weigh a couple of pounds. And these are what the old market gunners and the old decoys used to use in the 20s. I think they're gorgeous. Too good to use on the field, of course. Now, what else do I need? The only other thing we really need from here is a sack in which to carry the dead birds off the field with. Now, all we need now are binoculars and gun.
John Batley takes 100 cartridges with him, and his kit, including these and his gun, weighs about 25 pounds. He leaves behind a padlocked strongbox bolted to the floor of the Land Rover, which contains 1,000 cartridges, enough to cope with any eventuality in the most promising of days. Mobility is his byword, and he reckons to balance his kit so that he can walk any distance in comfort. Like Archie Coats, he holds that for this do-it-yourself sport, the equipment should be simple as well as light, and the aim is to use Fieldcraft to get your pigeon rather than gadgets. He uses a 20-bore because it's lighter, bored, improved and quarter choke, while Archie Coats prefers a 12-bore with about half choke in the left barrel and improved cylinder in the right. You don't need a special gun for pigeon shooting, and these will pull down pheasant and partridge equally well. It's a mistake to economize on cartridges, and our experts both use number 7s, unless there's a very high wind or they're roost shooting, when they would use number 6s. Unfortunately, there's only the lightest of winds today, but sunbirds have been put up by the movement of the shooter and his dog walking them off, and by the activity and noise of a combine harvester working close by. The shooter should always take advantage of natural movements like these to move the birds. The hedgerows here don't match up to the wide ones in Hampshire, and he needs to tuck himself out of sight as quickly as possible, the colour of his scrim blending in with the midsummer colours of the background. John Batley needs only a maximum of 15 minutes to set up his hide and put out his decoy pattern. Telescopic poles are an asset and can speedily be adjusted to the appropriate height. He wears a shooting waistcoat, however hot the day may be, and a cap with a peak for camouflage. His gun is the last item of all to go into the hide, both because of the safety factor and to prevent any inadvertent damage occurring to the gun itself. He's chosen the shape of his pattern and is throwing out his decoys to present a realistic picture to the birds, setting them up where they fall for a alleged and contrived result. The lightweight shells with their rocking movement have the edge over static decoys and seem to work in the lightest of breezes. John Batley never allows himself to forget that pigeon are shot over so much these days they become streetwise and not easily fooled, and he bamboozles them with the efficiency of his technique until they fall victim to the terrible duplicity of his decoys.
I lost. I lost. Get on. I lost. Get on. I lost. Come on, there's a good girl. Here, bring it in here. Come on. Here, here. Come on. Here, bring it in.
In this situation, when things are going well and the power of the shot has stirred up the pigeons, John Batley uses a lull to build up his pattern. His favourite decoy is the rocking cradle supporting a dead bird. He breaks the wings and sets the bird at about 15 to 20 degrees off the wind to display it, and then sticks the rod into the ground at an angle so that the dead bird moves gently 18 inches or so above the ground. This creates a natural movement, simulating a live bird just landing in or leaving the pattern. He clears the killing ground of dead birds, opening it up for more to come in. He'll gradually replace all the rocking shells with dead birds, for the more of the real thing you have out in a pattern, the better the results will be. Remember, the picture must always be inviting to the birds observing it from above, and John Batley maintains that if you get your hide right and your pattern right, the shooting will follow. In his opinion, pigeon shooting is 80% fieldcraft and 20% shooting.
Come on in. Come on, come on, come on. Come on.
The pigeon provides an unsurpassed challenge to the shooter throughout the whole year. Whether it's over rape in the short days of winter or on stubble with the sun baking the earth, this strong flyer, perhaps the greatest flyer of all, offers the hunter the perfect quarry. The pigeon is a wily, sophisticated bird which demands a fast, instinctive shot, together with a good deal of reconnaissance and even more fieldcraft. You may have to work hard for each bird you get, but you will remember every shot you take, and this do-it-yourself sport allows you to enjoy the simple pleasures of sitting in a hide, making the fieldcraft work for you, and then going home with some well-earned bird.